Been a while. You promised you'd write.
We're back, gamers. I know my videos have been very sparse the past couple of weeks, mainly because I haven't been feeling particularly good and I can't make good videos if I feel like shit, so I didn't. But don't worry, Behaviour heard my plea and gave me an emotion that powers through feeling like crap, and that's a deep-seated anger. Because that's right, Behaviour are back at it again with some of the dumbest changes we could possibly bear witness to. We're in for a real treat with this one too, because we got both a roadmap and today's bug fix patch, which wasn't actually a bug fix because it adjusted perks and even the skull merchant. So we'll start with today's patch. 14 different bug fixes for characters. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Mr. Sadako man, did they fix her demanifested bug finally?
Serious?
Of course they fucking didn't. What do you think, they would actually bother to fix a bug that drastically affects gameplay in a negative way? Nah mate, they're focusing on the things that really matter, such as fixed an issue that caused the spirit's host to have a killer's red stain when undetectable, and fixed an issue that caused survivors to have no facial expressions when caught by the Cenobite's change. You know, the things that really affect the gameplay. Oh hey look, they actually fixed the skull merchant's drones not deploying where you're facing like they were supposed to, which meant that you can actually get the scans when you try to put them at a leap. Damn, that's actually a pretty good change. I do see no mention of them fixing her drones not spawning with any scan lines whatsoever though, so I guess that still exists. Enough of that nonsense anyway, let's get into the meat and potato of the changes. The skull merchant got some changes, so now she doesn't slow down when looking at her iPad. She can also always see the scan lines on her drones rather than being limited like the survivors, and she can see her scan lines through the walls when looking at her iPad to try and help her do scan rotations through the wall. I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. Since we know that they're reworking it, I've stopped caring about her changes, and if you're watching Epic, I'm sorry. The exact same thing happened in 2.0 Sadako when they announced that they were reworking her. I just don't see the point in bothering to improve or learn mechanics on a killer when you know that it's all going to be changed anyway. So as much as I enjoy the skull merchant, I've lost all interest in actually playing her. Next up we have the perk changes, because we got some. Machine learning decreased the duration of the effect once activated to 45 seconds, down from 60 seconds.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. They saw the changes they did to this perk in the last patch and they thought, my god, this perk might actually be usable now and we can't be having any of that. So they've nerfed it again. We'll just ignore the fact that nobody was complaining about this perk. I've literally not seen a single killer run this thing since it was buffed, and the only people who run perks like this are using it with a more fun collection of perks which might result in, God forbid, some actual unique gameplay, or the fact that it's still a complete pain in the ass to actually activate the thing. This is Dead by Daylight, gamers. No fun is allowed, so they nerf this perk. Back to your quad slowdown builds. The exact same thing has happened with Zanshin Tactic, reducing its aura read from 8 seconds down to 5 seconds. But I have actually seen this perk since it was buffed a whole 2 times. Whoa, that's 2 times more than I've seen it in my 2,000 hours in this game. Clearly that's too overtuned and needed to be addressed immediately. And then Predator was nerfed. Again, it's a perk that's been nerfed because Behaviour refused to actually address the problems on the nurse and instead will just keep boundless perks hostage because of her.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way.
The funny thing is this perk is still going to be broken on the nurse, because with lethal, which is a very common perk to use on the nurse, it will still give you plenty of time to blink on top of survivor and instantly kill them with 0 counterplay. Now we have the survivor perks. Distortion now only needs 15 seconds in a chase to get a token. That's whatever, I guess it's okay now. Inner Focus, which as we all know is another hard meta perk that you see in every single match and clearly was far too overtuned for Dead by Daylight. This is the perk where you see your teammates' scratch marks and when losing a health state, it showed the killer's aura for 10 seconds. Well, now it has been made so the killer has to cause the health state to be lost in order to see the aura. I guess this is okay, but I don't know. Were a lot of people plot twisting on the edge of the map to have wall hacks on a killer? God knows, but apparently Behaviour needed to address such situations. Next up, we have the single good change in the whole patch notes. They nerfed We're Gonna Live Forever. The heal speed is now down from 150% to 100%. You're still going to heal at Mark 1, but it won't be completely ludicrous now like it was before, where there was basically 0 counterplay for the killer, especially if you combine it with things like a syringe. But that was the disaster that was the patch notes. Let's jump into the roadmap and have a wee look-see, shall we? Next up is we have the roadmap. So here it is. Everything on the left has already happened, so we can pretend that that just doesn't exist. Let's go through them. Quality of life and gameplay. We're getting an updated news system, who gives a toss. We're also getting activity HUD improvements, probably for solo queue. So they're trying to further bridge the gap between solo and Swift. It's not inherently bad, but I will remind you guys' behaviour that Swift is imbalanced in this game and by far the least enjoyable matches to play as a killer, so if you're planning on really closing the gap between solo and Swift, you should be looking at making the game not as insufferable when people are actually working together. Next up, we have the killer tweaks. I think it's fair to say that whenever they say killer tweaks, what they actually mean is killer nerfs. First, we have Moisty Myers. I'm not holding my breath out for this one. I've already done an in-depth video explaining why I really enjoy Myers in his current state, the main reasons being he actually feels like Michael Myers, which isn't the case for pretty much any other license that they have. He also has a very unique add-on set that drastically change up his gameplay, which makes him feel super fresh, which is something that it lacks in a lot of killers in the game. Think about it, there's no other killers where when you play against them, you have an adjective to describe what type of player it's going to be, whether it will be Tombstone Myers, Infi Tier 3 Myers, Scratch Mirror Myers, Vanity Mirror Myers, maybe a longer tier 3 or a faster tier 3. There's just so much variety in this killer, especially around his add-ons. Hopefully they give him some buffs like removing the dumbass range stalking limitations, or maybe even rewarding Myers for stalking from further away. Adjusting his stalk so you can't run out of it entirely too would be nice, but other than that, I really hope they don't annihilate the best Mouse 1 killer and the best licensed killer. Next up we have Dracula. He's actually in an okay spot at the moment in my opinion. If anything, his wolf could use adjustments because right now nobody uses it because it's kinda ass, but I don't know why he's being changed. Demo is getting a change, which is actually really interesting. Hopefully they make it so you can't Mouse 1 if you haven't fully charged your shred, to prevent those situations where you press it just a little bit too early and then end up cancelling your shred. It would also be nice if they remove the god-awful totem playstyle where you can just make it essentially impossible to cleanse totems as the survivor and then buff parts of his kits elsewhere to compensate. Overall, I'm not too sure what to expect from this. We actually do know the +4, these being Wesker, Vecna, Chucky and Ghostface. Wesker's hopefully going to get something back for the massive nerf he recently got with his infection, but no doubt they'll probably nerf him more. I forgot that Vecna was even in the game, to be honest. They're probably going to nerf his skeleton so insta-tech isn't doable though, and just leave him toilet tier if I were to have a guess. Chucky's probably also going to get gutted on his slice and dice too, but hopefully they'll update his add-ons so there aren't like 5 viable ones. Ghostface is the only one I'm actually looking forward to because he is so bad that there is no way that they won't buff him. Hopefully this time the buff will actually be meaningful, unlike last time where they increased his crouch movement speed, which basically did nothing. On to the perk changes. Weave Attunement is getting nukes because apparently dropping your item is just too much for survivors. There's only one situation where this perk in my opinion is overtuned, and that's on multi-story maps because there is legitimately no counterplay to the perk on Gideon and Midwich. But seriously, this is a perk where not only can you immediately know it's in play the second you gain control of your power, but make it completely useless. You spawn in, you drop your item. If you see the icon in the bottom right, waddle to the edge of the map and drop your item. You have now successfully deleted 2 of the killer's perks for the entire game. Name another perk where you're able to completely remove it from players the other side without needing to run the perk yourself the moment the match starts. There isn't one. Instead of actually attempting to learn some counterplay though, Behavior are going to do what they always do and gut the perk, and then every survivor is going to be surprised Pikachu face when every killer just resorts to using the same 7 perks, because if they ever actually bother to use anything else and it requires some amount of effort on the survivor side to counter, survivors will just complain until it gets deleted. The only other thing I can think they're going to do is make it so that when Weave Achievement is in play, the survivors will be able to see the aura of their items, so it's a little bit easier to counter it, but I very much doubt that this is going to happen. Ace in the Hole is also getting changed. This is the perk where when you open a chest, the item will have an increased rarity and spawn with 1 to 2 add-ons, and escaping with an item that has add-ons will give you those add-ons, since I'm sure most people forgot that this perk even exists. I'm not sure how they're going to change this, and I doubt anyone will run this perk even after it's buffed, but it will be nice to see because I actually quite like this perk, especially for stealing my teammates' items who have died on the hook. Team Partner is the next perk that's going to be changed, and it's actually a really good perk that's pretty healthy, so I can't wait to see how they're going to manage to ruin that. We don't know the other 5 perks that are being changed, however, so we're just going to move straight on to the January changes. Holy dog shit gamers, it's finally happening. They are actually changing Freddy. It's been decades, but Behavior finally remembered that they have one of the most iconic killers in the world in their game, and he might actually end up being playable. This is a similar situation with Ghostface, where he's just so bad right now that surely there is nothing that they can do to make him worse. Jesus Christ, here's hoping. Now we're going to move on to the perk. Fire Up is a perk that gives you a buff to your action speed as killer each time a generator is finished. This is a perk that's on the curb of actually being a really fun and unique perk, but its numbers never quite make sense to run, so I'm genuinely excited about this one. Anything Anything that gives us good chase perks and encourages something other than quad slowdown is a win in my book. Wake Up is also being changed. This is the perk that opens doors really quickly. I have no idea why this one's being changed. It's niche but extremely strong in that niche, so I'm a little worried about this one. The next one is Vigil. This is the one that reduces the exhausted timer of exhausted perks. I really hope to God that they are not going to buff this perk because it's already a very strong perk, and the exhausted timers are one of those things where changing the numbers too much will result in catastrophically broken situations. So you know, there are some diamonds here, but mostly it's just behavior doing behavior things. Nerfing things that don't need nerfing, buffing things that don't need buffing, or just generally changing things that don't need changing. The certified DBD classic. Anyway, that's all from me, gamers, and I'll catch you in the next one.